don't cry. Why is she crying?
Maybe she watched The Notebook one too many times. Adolescence is a very volatile time for a young woman.
He so gets me.
Well, as I already told Kyle earlier today, this is fun, this is frothy, this is fast, this is pure entertainment. And you girls really kick some ass. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Frothy, I like that word.
You like that word?
I love the alliteration. Oh, no.
So, I want to throw this out to Hailee because this is, you've been homeschooled. So for you, this experience, very much like Megan, been controlled in an environment. You haven't gotten to have the life of a normal teen. So how easy was it, or how challenging, for you to tap into the character of Megan and the experiences of high school and a first homecoming and dorky clothes, trying to transition, and all of that stuff that you've missed?
I think in some ways it almost made it easier because of the fact that I'm playing a character that's never been on a school bus before, has never taken it to school, who's never, really had like a locker to put her things in and like walk down the school hallway when the bell rings and it's complete chaos. Like I've never really had that, and neither had Megan. So kind of, experiencing that, I think it hopefully had that kind of.
Also, it was your first, it was both of you, it was your first homecoming.
Yes.
You've been to...
We don't have homecoming.
You don't have it. So it was, for everybody, I remember you guys were getting ready and you were getting in your clothes and you're like, this is like our first real school dance.
Yeah, like walking down the stairs, Dove and I walking down the stairs, and we're like, this is so weird how like we're like kind of nervous, like this is so strange. But no, there was a lot of the like parallel feelings, like feeling things for the first time that you get in a high school experience. I had quite a lot making this movie.
So now, are you glad you missed high school?
No.
Or
I technically didn't.
No, she didn't. She was working the whole time. I mean, that was what was impressive, is watching her having to balance school and then refocus on the character, and go back to school, and then refocus on the character, and now go fight train, and then come back. It was all in a day, and she was like doing it all, and she would just click on, click off, click back. I was like, how is she doing that?
It was so
impressive.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
So what was the most challenging part for you guys individually in making the project?
Most challenging part individually. I mean, I think for me, I did deal with this sort of challenge of schoolwork and having to film, and I think one of my favorite things about this movie, I feel like we actually have a decently sized cast, but it did at the end of the day feel very intimate, and it felt like we were all sort of always on the same page, and we all wanted to make a really fun, great film. And so I think kind of going back and forth, but having that sort of foundation that we all created coming back to kind of made that easy. But I don't know, individual struggles, guys?
I was just going to say that I think that Liz, the girl that I play, has a very dramatic arc, and when you shoot a movie, you shoot it out of order. And so for me, the most challenging part was just remembering where I was emotionally, so that, because it's such a scary thing when you watch a movie and it's all done, and you're like, I really hope that it makes sense, like chronologically, because you shoot like the last scene first and all that stuff, so I think that might have been the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I think making it, for me, the tone is a tightrope. It's a genre-bending experience, and yes, it's a high school film, yes, it is action, yes, it's a comedy, it's PG-13, so you're also walking just the tightrope of 2 PG or 2 R, and we were always firmly PG-13. It wasn't something we settled on in post-production. I feel like all classic high school movies are PG-13. It's a fish out of water comedy, so we had to kind of thread the needle in that respect, and that was a challenge. And I think you're making a movie in 30 days that has this volume of...
It's like these kids have mouths on.
Actually,
It's so true. Like every time like Gabe improvised.
Oh man, forget it.
Just like we're gonna have to cut that out.
But Kyle, keep it going because he enjoyed watching.
Yeah, like in different, everyone also has very, like a big cast, so everyone has very different acting styles. And a friend of mine, Dan Fogler, came down, he's Mr. Thrill. So I know that with Dan, sometimes it's good to just let the camera roll.
Yeah.
So we would have an 8-minute take with Dan, and you just let kind of him go, and then it just starts warming up. And sometimes it's not for what you're going to do with the movie, but it is for setting a climate set, like of an openness or a creative spirit of fun, and people get inspired by it. And I think, all the different styles. You guys all were very similar in a way. You guys are all much more efficient and prepared. I feel like, some actors come in and they like to feel it out and find it. They would all come in extremely prepared, which is a benefit when you're that streamlined with your production. We couldn't do more than 3 or 4 takes unless there were technical errors. Or it was not a movie where we would sit around and say, this line isn't ringing true. Let's go have a conversation over here. Okay, that's bullshit. You can't do that.
Yeah.
That's like crazy luxury. There's no reshoot days. It's an independent movie. It's not like, we'll cut it and see how it works and we'll get 5 extra. No. It has to be precise, and thankfully they were like pros, even though they're the youngest people on set. They were like setting the climate for everyone else. So that made my life a lot easier, and it allowed us to stay focused on the tone.
Personally, what drew you to the characters when you found the script?
I think, the sort of through line of my character, her sort of arc, is really interesting, where she goes from living a life where she knows absolutely everything to a life where she knows absolutely nothing. And I find that in my everyday life, in making a movie, even though it's 3 months, high school's 4 years, I think I go from not thinking I know everything, but thinking like I've got it down, I know how this is going to go, to it's a completely new experience every single time. And so I think that was kind of, the message of that kind of goes for anybody, no matter where you're from or what you do or how you were brought up. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah. I remember reading the script and then going in, and it was just Kyle during the first one. And I remember, usually you prepare ahead of time what you're gonna do, and I remember walking in and being like, I'm just gonna do whatever what I would do in this moment, which is not usually something I do. And I was sitting up on the chair, hunched over and talking to him like a creature. And I just remember thinking that I remember thinking that there was so much room to be just absolutely zany and the way that real girls in real high school are, not one-dimensional and not what I would think a high school girl would be like. Just sort of there are a lot of characters in this movie that give young girls permission to be awkward and goofy and funny and silly and withdrawn, and none of us are proper. And I just thought that was really cool. I really liked Kyle and the whole script and all the characters.
Yeah, I mean, for my character, I just really loved the idea of playing such a magnified version of a jealous high school bitch. It was kind of a good. It felt like payback for all the mean girls from my school. I just wanted to take the out of them.
For Sophie, I loved your commitment to your joy and pleasure of playing a mean high school bitch for a change. So the only thing I can assume is that you had a lot to choose from. In terms of your own personal toolbox. It doesn't sound like your experience at high school was anything akin to Mr. Holland's Opus. So
What's Mr. Holland's Opus?
it's just a feel-good musical
Oh, really?
kind of movie. It doesn't sound like that was your high school experience. What was it? Your high school experience?
I mean, my high school experience, it was actually just, there was a lot of messing around. I mean, it was an all-girls school, so it can get quite bitchy. But it was also just kind of because there were no boys there, no one was really prim and proper. And, we all just kind of messed around. We were sweaty and gross, no makeup, acne. It was a really good time actually. But yeah, you get the typical high school cliques. You get the mean girls and you get the popular ones and the weirdos, which I think I was in. And the
Weirdos, really?
Yeah.
You were a weirdo?
Yeah, I was really weird.
She still is.
Yeah.
Still is. Yeah, it was really. Look who's talking.
You're one of these actresses that can remarkably transition so well between TV and film. Is there a certain medium that you prefer in any upcoming projects you can talk about?
I don't really have a medium that I prefer. I think, I mean, it's very different working on a TV show to a movie. I mean, I think, it doesn't really bother me whether it's a television show or a movie, or if it's an independent or a big, film franchise. I think if it's a good script and a good cast and a good director, then there's no question about whether I should do it or not. And I don't really know. I think with Game of Thrones, there's such a huge cast and crew, and it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming, but then other times it's kind of amazing to be on it. And then with this, it's so intimate and so small, but that's also really nice as well, because you get to bond with people so much. Just depends on the project, I guess.
Was acting always an innate and natural process as a child, or was it a craft that you guys really honed throughout the years? And do you still see there are moments within that journey you're still learning about acting as well?
And I feel like I never stop learning. Like I said before, each experience on a film set, on a TV set, on any set of any movie is completely different, I feel like. I started, when I sort of decided I wanted to start acting, it wasn't the decision of wanting to act, it was the decision of wanting to be in commercials because my cousin was in them. And so that's kind of what I went to my mom and said, and she obviously knew that it required a lot more of a commitment than I ever even experienced. So she told me that if I went to classes, if I stayed in acting classes for a full year, if I committed to it and showed her that I could do it, she said that she would look further into it. So after a year, literally my mom took photos of me in the backyard, sent them to 10 different agencies, one called, I signed with them, and the rest is history. But I haven't stopped coaching, I haven't stopped learning.
Yeah. I don't think you ever really stop learning. I mean, there's that whole...
We actually know everything.
Yeah. No, but there's that whole, 10,000 hours rule. But I feel like even when you bank 10,000 hours, just like anything else in life, you're never really done learning. And yeah, I think it's really rewarding as an actor to be able to do multiple forms, like television, stage, film. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain really fun element to feeling like you're getting a better handle on it, but just like anything else, you never stop learning about people, so you never really stop incorporating that into what you do.
Yeah.
Did you always want to be an actress?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I did since I was 3 years old, and I was at an amateur youth theatre from 3 up until really recently. And yeah, I mean, I'd always wanted to be an actress, and I remember thinking when I hit 12, I think it was on my 12th birthday, I said to my mom, I was like, you realize if I don't get into the business now, I'm never going to be in it. And my mom was like, how old are you? What are you talking about? And then the next year I got my first job, and I was like, oh, thank God, because there would have been no chance.